He doesn't look anything like me. Must be a mistake somewhere. Maybe he's not even my son." Andy said that, while openly favoring his good-looking and intelligent son over his daughter, Crystal Jacqueline. He told me our daughter should get a job as soon as she finishes middle school, and destroyed the stuff we bought for her high school entrance. I couldn't take it anymore. I packed up and left, taking both kids with me. My name is Misty. I'm your average 35-year-old stay-at-home mom, living with my husband, son, and daughter. My son, William, has always been handsome since he was a kid, so much so that people often mistook him for a girl. My friends would even say, "You should get William into acting or modeling." He's also incredibly smart, gentle, and mature. By the time he was 3, he was already conversing like an adult. On the other hand, my younger daughter Crystal is definitely the cutest girl in the world from my point of view as a parent. However, her appearance was far from what is commonly known as a pretty girl. She's a bit on the plump side, with curly hair and a round face. She's not athletic and she's slow to speak. But to me, she's the most adorable girl in the world. However, there is someone who doesn't think well of such a girl. Andy, however, clearly favors William. When he gets home from work, he only pays attention to William. If Crystal tries to join in, Andy tells her she's creepy and trying too hard and trying too hard. Whenever this happens, William suggests, "Let's all play together." But Andy dismisses him, saying, "Don't play with Crystal, you'll catch her stupidity." William sits uncomfortably on his father's lap. He's smart. He understands what's happening. Even my mother-in-law, Jacqueline, dotes on William and mistreats Crystal. Andy's family owns a store. His dad has passed away, so Andy is expected to take over the business. That's why we go to my in-laws once a week. Every time we visit, Jacqueline, Andy's mom, grimaces and says, "Oh, you brought Misty and Crystal again? You could have just brought Andy and William." She says we don't have to come, but if we don't, she makes snide comments over the phone, treating me like a maid. I don't want to go to my in-laws, but Andy drags me along to help with chores, so I have no choice. On this particular day, Jacqueline decides to take William and Crystal to a large local park. While Crystal is thrilled to spend time with her grandma, I have an uneasy feeling. But, tied up with chores as usual, I reluctantly wave them off. By evening, Jacqueline returns home, carrying a tired William on her back. "Oh, he's getting heavy. William's growing up," she cheerfully comments. But there's no sign of Crystal. "Jacqueline, where's Crystal?" With no hint of guilt, she replies, "I don't know. Both were looking tired, but I can't carry both." So, I told Crystal to walk back on her own. I couldn't believe what I just heard. A chill ran down my spine. I bolted out of the front door and sprinted towards the park, rolling over myself in a panic. Who would leave such a small child alone? I prayed she was all right as I burst into the park. "Mom." The moment I heard that cry, Crystal leapt into my arms. I felt the tension drain out of me. A police officer was standing nearby. "You're her mom, right? The park staff found her crying alone and called us. You shouldn't leave a small child unattended." The officer admonished me, but then patted Crystal on the head, saying, "It's good your mom came for you." I bowed my head to the officer several times and tightly held Crystal's hand as we headed home. On the way, Crystal spoke up in her innocent words. "Crystal was sleepy. Grandma said I could nap, so I slept on a park bench. When I woke up, no one was there, and I cried. Are you mad?" "I'm not mad. I'm sorry I scared you." I couldn't help but hug Crystal, who was carefully reading my expression. When we got back to my in-laws' place, both Jacqueline and Andy sighed at the sight of Crystal. "So she's found, huh?" Frustrated, I yelled at Andy. "Do you even care what happens to your own child?" Andy wasn't ashamed. He fired back with something shocking. "I don't care what happens to her. She's ugly and not smart. She doesn't look like me at all. You probably had her with another man and are making me raise her, but that's not gonna happen." Upon hearing this, Jacqueline also chimed in. "Would have been fine if she hadn't been found. Who knows where she came from? I've never cheated. Crystal is absolutely your child. Do you have any evidence of me cheating?" I protested, but all they did was mock me. From that point on, my daughter and I never went back to my in-laws' house. No matter how much Andy scolded us, no matter how many sarcastic comments Jacqueline made over the phone, I endured it all to protect Crystal. William had noticed how poorly Andy and Jacqueline were treating us. "Grandma would get mad if I also stayed home. I'm okay going alone. You and Crystal don't have to worry." That's what William said as he gently stroked Crystal's head. Although I felt guilty toward William, we stayed home. William is truly a kind-hearted child. Dealing with Jacqueline's mood swings must have been tough, but William managed it with his inherent brightness and charm. I've thought about divorcing many times, but without any qualifications and being just a housewife, I couldn't fathom supporting William and Crystal by myself. So, I had no choice but to endure. A decade had passed since Crystal and I effectively cut ties with my in-laws. William had become a working adult, and Crystal was about to start high school. With a new backpack and textbooks for high school, Crystal was looking forward to this new chapter in her life. Andy still treated Crystal poorly, but we had both decided to ignore him. "As long as William and Mom are on my side, that's all that matters," Crystal would say, which always made my heart ache. Still, seeing Crystal excited about her new life made me happy, too. But then, disaster struck. Andy saw Crystal's new school supplies and went ballistic. "What is this? You're planning on going to high school? We've raised you this far, and you're not even our real child. Quit school and start working. Pay us back for all we've spent. Throw all of this stuff away, now." Ripping up her textbooks and tearing her bag apart, Andy hurled them into the muddy yard soaked from days of rain. "I'll make sure your mom hears about this." Andy said that and called his in-laws. Jacqueline came over almost immediately, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "Who do you think you are, planning to go to high school on our dime? You should be thankful you even got to go to middle school. Get a job as soon as you graduate and give us all your earnings. Misty, you should be grateful we even took care of your affair child," she said, clearly enjoying herself. "You two are nothing but a bad influence on William, our heir. You're both worthless. Get out." So there we were, Crystal and I, picking up her thrown school supplies, listening to Andy and Jacqueline's harsh words. Both of us were drenched in the rain. Rain soaked our hair, and droplets streamed down our faces to the ground. I couldn't tell if they were tears or rain anymore. With William already having moved out, there was no one left to stand up to these two. Crystal and I looked at each other, and we both knew. There was no reason left to stay in this house. After that, Crystal and I packed a few essentials and left. Andy and Jacqueline agreed to the divorce without a fuss. With nowhere else to go, we turned to William for help. William was shocked to see us covered in mud and rain, but quickly understood the situation and welcomed us into his home. William offered me a warm shower, a change of clothes, and a soothing drink. Feeling a bit more settled, We sat down to talk about what's next. Got a call from Dad earlier. He said he's divorcing Mom and we should never let them in the house again. He told me to quit my job and take over the family store. But I don't want any part of it. I can't stand him or Grandma. Hearing this made my heart ache for William. I've always wondered how hard it's been for him, stuck between our family and his in-laws since childhood. I was putting up with it as long as Dad and Mom were married, and while Crystal was in that house. But that's not the case anymore, is it? William grins mischievously. How about changing schools, Crystal? I'm being transferred to another state. We can all move there. And let's keep it a secret from Dad and Grandma. I hope their store goes under. Upon hearing William's enthusiastic proposal, Crystal exclaims, I'm definitely in. I've always relied on William, so it made me feel guilty. But I decided to go along with it because it seemed like the best course of action. Everything fell into place smoothly after that. A few weeks later, we were settling into our new lives in a new place. What Andy and Jacqueline don't know is that Crystal is actually brilliant. She's always been good at tests, she just developed a little slower than others. She even aced the entrance exam to a top high school at our new location. Crystal and I both got new phone numbers, cutting off all contact with Andy and Jacqueline. William kept his line open just to keep tabs on them. He thought it'd be best to have a minimal line of communication to avoid being desperately searched for. 10 years have passed since then. Crystal is an adult now, William has a decent job, and we're all living separately. Today is a rare occasion where we've all gathered for a family meal. I decided to dress up a bit as I waited for the two of them. Suddenly, I hear, Is that you, Misty? Yes, it's Misty. It was Andy, now balding and bloated. And Jacqueline, her hair completely white. And hunched over like a witch from a storybook. Where have you been for 10 years, Misty? We've been worried. Are you still mad about us claiming Crystal is the child of an affair? Come back. We haven't seen Crystal and William for years. Where are my kids? Andy was ranting, saliva flying from his mouth. Yes, come back. We're in terrible shape now. Jacqueline shrieked in her hoarse voice. Despite the dramatic reunion, I felt nothing. I observed them, oddly detached. Mom! Mom, what's going on? I looked back towards the voice. I turned to see a sharply dressed young man and a lovely young woman in a cute dress. Pointing at them, Andy and Jacqueline were speechless. Is that William and Crystal? Yes, but what are Dad and Grandma doing here? William gives a terse response. Wow, you both look incredible. Crystal, you've turned into such a beauty, I hardly recognized you. I never imagined that little Crystal would grow up to be this stunning. I wish I'd been there to see it. Ignoring William's question, both Andy and Jacqueline share their thoughts. You see, after Crystal moved away from Andy and Jacqueline, her life improved significantly. Whether it was the lack of stress or her active involvement in high school activities, she transformed. Her face slimmed down, and her eyes, once lost in baby fat, became more pronounced. Her hair, which was once unmanageably frizzy, gained a beautiful wave. Now, Crystal is so adorable that she could stand next to a celebrity and not be overshadowed. Well, since her older brother William is handsome, Crystal must have had the potential to be beautiful as well. Both William and Crystal are successful and employed by big corporations. They are the pride and joy of me, their mother, Misty. So, the family is back together after 10 years. Let's go out for dinner. I don't have money on me, but you both can pay, right? After all, I've raised you. Andy places his hand on Crystal's shoulder. She promptly slaps it away. Don't touch me, it's creepy. I've always been told I was the result of my mother's affair. I have no father, and you didn't raise me. Who are you? Crystal, now wearing heels, towers over Andy. Enough is enough, William states calmly. I won't forget what you did to Mom and Crystal. Today is the last day we're in contact. Don't bother calling again. Andy explodes with anger. How dare you speak to your parents like that? Crystal, come home and marry a local businessman's son. William, come back and save the family business. Misty, apologize and serve us for the rest of your life. Andy's temper flares like wildfire. We exchange glances and burst into laughter. Why would we want your forgiveness? What made you think that? I'm actually getting married soon, so that businessman's son is out of the question. I'm starting my own business, so there's no way I can take over the family shop. What a shame it'll go under. Both of them laugh, shaking their shoulders. Andy looks desperate. Misty, you'll come back, won't you? His needy gaze is repulsive. Why would I return to that house? Who wants to be a housemaid there? Plus, I've remarried. So, no, I can't go back. I flash the shining ring on my left hand. What? You remarried? Without telling me? I won't accept this. Andy tries to snatch the ring off my finger. But before William can step in, another man comes between us. Do you have business with my wife? No rough handling, please. Andy felt cornered by the imposing man. What's your deal? Andy retorted, trying to puff up his chest. I'm Misty's husband. As far as I know, you and Misty divorced a decade ago. I was the lawyer who facilitated the process. A lawyer? Andy seemed visibly shaken by the man, who suddenly revealed he was a lawyer. That's right, I fell for Owen, the lawyer who helped me during my divorce 10 years ago, and we started dating. A few years later, we got married. Andy's face turned even redder. A lawyer, huh? Think you're something special because you make some money? Everyone, listen to me. Misty's my wife, and William and Crystal are my kids. You're in the way. With that, Andy charged at Owen like a raging bull. But Owen dodged smoothly. What? Ah! Unable to stop himself, Andy stumbled and rolled away, letting out a pathetic cry. Oh no! Andy! Jacqueline screamed in dismay. We all watched, holding our breath, wondering if Andy was all right. Lying on his back, Andy yelled, I'll forgive you all if you listen to me now. Good, he didn't seem to be badly hurt. But the fall did appear to shake him up quite a bit. What should we do now? I thought, and Owen reassured me. I've called an ambulance. It'll be all right. Let's leave the rest to them. Crystal was fuming. You're too kind. You should have just left him. Even her angry face was adorable. Hey, our dinner reservation is soon. Let's get going or we'll be late. William reminded us. Ah, yes. Today was a special family dinner day. With a reassuring embrace from Owen, we left. We could hear Andy and Jacqueline's verbal abuse behind us, but nothing scared us now. Months later, we heard that Andy's struggling business finally went under. Owen had gotten the news from a real estate contact. For 10 years after we left, Andy had kept things afloat, surprisingly. Now Andy was blaming a fall for not being able to work, leaving Jacqueline to handle both house and work, struggling to pay off debts. Hearing this, I couldn't help but marvel at how karma works. What goes around comes around. On a sunny Sunday afternoon, I was trying on a dress for Crystal's wedding. "That looks great on you. I wonder which one I should wear." To think I'd see the day I'd attend as Crystal's father, it feels like a dream. I turned around, and there was Owen, holding 2 tuxedos in his hands, smiling shyly. "Get to cleaning the house already. Slaves don't get to rest." That's what my husband Anthony said as he splashed beer on me. I was so taken aback by the suddenness of it all that I froze. My body was wet, and the distinctive smell of beer filled my nostrils. As I stood there in disbelief, Anthony hurled more abuse my way. What should I do? What does Anthony want from me? Just when I felt cornered and at a loss for words, I heard a voice from the computer. The moment he heard that voice, Anthony, who had been red-faced and angry just seconds before, stiffened and collapsed on the spot. "My name is Chloe. I'm 33 years old. I work as an office clerk at a company in a certain region, putting my all into my job every day. My days consist of dealing with large amounts of data and documents and punching numbers into a calculator. I think to myself that the company should make more use of computers, but being one of the younger employees within the company, I didn't have much say. I worked while being mindful of my superiors and was forced to attend drinking parties I didn't want to go to. My spirit was utterly exhausted. "These numbers are wrong again." "I'm sorry." "Please, I'm really counting on you. You've been making a lot of mistakes lately." "Yes, sir." The mistakes kept piling up due to my fatigue, further diminishing the little confidence in my work I had to begin with. I wondered if quitting would be better for me. It was during these times that a certain man started coming to the company as a salesperson. This man was the person who would later become my husband, Anthony. From just one look, it was clear that Anthony was a kind man. Even to me, who only did things like making coffee, Anthony was always kind. I found myself drawn to Anthony before I knew it. However, I couldn't bring myself to express my feelings to Anthony. It was all one-sided on my part, and I was sure Anthony didn't think anything of me. That thought was always in my mind. But a few months after Anthony started coming to the company, to my surprise, he approached me. We started going out for drinks after work, which led to us dating. After 2 years of dating, we were able to get married. With our marriage, I quit my job, and Anthony and I started a new life in a new home. We picked out a place we both liked after visiting various real estate agents. Quitting my job and thinking about the happy life ahead with Anthony made my heart lighten. However, the life I had envisioned was not to be. A month into our marriage, I noticed Anthony was acting differently. "Welcome home, Anthony. You're early today." "Yeah, well." He didn't look at me and didn't even greet me back properly. Seeing Anthony so different from usual genuinely worried me. After that, Anthony seemed somewhat listless. "Are you okay? You seem tired." "Huh? Oh." He seemed more irritable than tired. Indeed, he was different from his usual self. I thought maybe he was just tired today, and didn't think much of it. However, the next day and the day after that, Anthony's attitude remained unchanged. Gradually, it wasn't just his attitude and greetings. He stopped taking the sandwiches I made for him and didn't contact me when he was coming home late. I could tell that he was starting to treat me carelessly. Maybe I had done something to offend Anthony. As I pondered over this, my own time flew by. I was filled with insecurities about my behavior and thoughts of Anthony. Things changed a few months after Anthony started showing a change in his attitude. He began to verbally abuse me out of nowhere. One evening, Anthony spoke to me without touching his dinner. "Hey, Chloe. Do you realize?"
Realize what?
Without a subject, his sudden question was impossible to understand. I urged Anthony to explain further. Without any sign of remorse, Anthony said, "Your cooking is terrible." "What? Terrible?"
Yeah. I guessed you hadn't noticed. Think about how I feel, having to eat such terrible food every day.
I had often cooked meals during our dating period, but he had never made such a complaint before. He always seemed to enjoy the meals, and he had told me many times they were delicious. Watching him like this, I never thought Anthony would find the meals I made unpalatable. "You used to say it was delicious."
What? Did I?
Seeing my anxious face, Anthony started laughing loudly. Then, after a good laugh, Anthony put down his fork and went back to the bedroom. Looking at the untouched meal, I felt indescribable. I too put down my fork and kept replaying Anthony's words in my mind. Had he been hiding that he found the meals unpleasant all this time? Or had my cooking skills just declined? I thought about it a lot, but couldn't come to a satisfying conclusion. However, one thought did seem to make sense. His recent behavior, his words just now. I thought maybe Anthony had come to dislike me. At first, I thought maybe he was just a little tired, but his recent behavior has definitely been too much. The Anthony I knew would have told me if he was tired. It must be so. But that would mean I did something to make him dislike me. However, I can't think of anything that might have caused it. My doubts about Anthony only grew. Then, another 2 months passed. Day by day, Anthony's attitude worsened, and the Anthony I knew during our dating days seemed to have disappeared completely. He verbally abused me daily and made a point to show his irritation by making noise.
Do you even know how to clean properly? Clean? Yeah. You haven't done the bathroom or the toilet, and the living room is filthy too.
I always tried to keep the house clean, doing the bathroom and toilet cleaning daily. I even vacuumed every day. What else does Anthony want me to do? While I was feeling down, Anthony didn't stop hurling insults. What hurt me the most was him saying,
"Why did I even marry a woman like you?"
Was all the love he professed just a lie? The moment I thought that, I felt tears streaming down my cheeks.
Ugh, why are you crying? Cut it out with the fake tears.
In the past, if I cried, he would comfort me. Now, he only says cruel things. Anthony went back to the bedroom, mocking me. Initially, we shared the same bedroom, but now I've been pushed out. I've gotten quite used to sleeping on the living room sofa. I knew I was being taken for granted and not treated with respect. But I couldn't bring myself to decide on divorce. I still had faith in Anthony. However, as expected, my feelings didn't reach him, and his treatment of me only got worse day by day. "Hey, dinner." As soon as I thought he was asking for food,
"I can't eat this terrible food,"
he would complain. I suggested eating out a few times, but for some reason, Anthony stubbornly refused.
"Why?"
He wouldn't give me any reason. Anthony would come home from work, complain about the entrance being dirty or the toilet being dirty, and demand food. Since his attitude started to change, I've often wondered what I did wrong, but seeing Anthony's behavior up to now, I've concluded he's just using me to vent his stress. The contradiction between what he says and his actions, constantly finding fault and berating me, it's clear he's just venting. I understand Anthony is tired from work. But I'm human too. Being constantly criticized, I too accumulate stress. I had hoped for a change, but I've reached my limit.
"Hey, Anthony. Can we stop this?"
I gathered my courage to talk to Anthony.
I don't know if it's because you're tired from work, but can you stop taking it out on me? I'm also stressed from being criticized by you every day.
Anthony looked at me in surprise, speechless.
Huh? What are you talking about?
It's just like I said. You come home and immediately start complaining about me. I'm trying my best, you know? Anthony was half laughing as he listened to my words. But as soon as I finished speaking, his face turned red with anger.
You know what? Who do you think you are? You're a housewife, but you can't clean or cook properly. What's wrong with complaining? Living carelessly like that. That's what pisses me off.
Then, can you tell me what's wrong so I can fix it?
No, I won't say. It's clear that nothing will change even if I tell you. You need to figure out what's wrong by yourself.
Anthony evaded the question when I asked what was wrong with me. This conversation alone made it clear that Anthony only saw me as an outlet for his stress. Our relationship worsened even more after I expressed my feelings. The verbal abuse and attitude towards me intensified. I sighed, reminiscing about the happier times in the past. However, one day, I received a call from an unexpected person. It was my mother-in-law, Jody. Jody and I get along well, but we don't call each other often, so I quickly answered the phone. Hello?
Oh, Chloe, how have you been?
Jody's voice sounded very cheerful over the phone. After some small talk, Jody brought up the main topic.
Huh? Handmade?
I was thinking I wanted a new hobby recently, and I remembered that you make handmade crafts. I was hoping you could teach me some stuff. Actually, I make handmade crafts as a hobby. I buy materials and tools, and spend time on my hobby when Anthony is not around. I had told Jody about my handmade crafts before, but I never thought she would remember.
Yes, of course. If I can be of any help.
That call led me to frequently talk with Jody. Our calls weren't just ordinary calls, but video calls. Initially, we just talked normally, but as I wanted to show her what I was working on and explain the materials in detail, we switched to video calls. Our houses aren't that far apart, but going there every time is honestly a hassle. When it's time for my appointment with Jody, I enter the room where my crafting tools are and craft while talking on the phone. My heart, which was distressed by Anthony's actions, felt purified while I was talking with Jody. By the way, how have things been with Anthony recently? Are you getting along?
Yes. I'm glad to hear that.
I didn't talk about Anthony to Jody. I didn't want to worry her, and more than anything, I wanted to forget about Anthony during the time I spent with Jody. Even after starting to do video calls with Jody, Anthony's attitude remained terrible. I was desperate not to let Jody catch on to anything about Anthony. However, one day, an incident happened. It was a few weeks after I started doing video calls with Jody on a Saturday. As usual, after finishing housework, I was on a video call with Jody when the door to the room opened.
Anthony!
Turning around, I saw Anthony standing near the door with something in his hand. Completely unaware of the video call, Anthony approached me.
Hey, what are you doing here? What about the cleaning? The laundry? Why aren't you doing them?
I've already done them. What are you talking about? Didn't you see?
Huh? I didn't see anything.
Well, he had been watching TV in the living room the whole time, so his response was expected.
You're always just watching TV. What? Shut up.
Anthony, further aggravated by my words, said,
Get to cleaning the house already. Slaves don't get to rest.
And then he splashed something he was holding on me. I soon found out what it was. It was beer. I was drenched in beer, smelling of it all over. and Anthony laughed at the sight. Shocked by the suddenness, I was speechless.
If you understand, then get to work.
Then, he kicked over a stack of books nearby. Anthony's mocking laughter filled the room. I couldn't take any action and just watched as the books got soaked with beer. But then,
Is that all you have to say?
I heard a familiar male voice from the computer.
Huh? Dad?
Yes, the voice was that of Anthony's dad. My father-in-law, Liam.
What are you doing? I saw everything. You verbally abused Chloe and then splashed beer on her. When did you become such a terrible person? It's a misunderstanding, Dad. That's not what it was.
As Liam began to speak, the bravado from before was nowhere to be seen in Anthony, who now appeared completely cowed. Despite seeing Anthony like this, Liam didn't stop his anger.
What misunderstanding? It doesn't seem like this was the first time, was it? What are you playing dumb for? Really, when did you change like this?
Liam was clearly exasperated. It's understandable to be dismayed if your own son was doing such terrible things. Ignoring Anthony, who was just standing there with his mouth open, Liam made a proposal to me. Chloe, won't you come to our house right now?
Right now?
Yes. I'm worried about leaving you in that house. If it's okay with you, I can come to pick you up right away. I was honestly surprised by Liam's invitation. But, thinking about it calmly, staying with Anthony alone, I really couldn't predict what he might do next. Would that be okay?
Of course. I'll be there soon. Anthony, if you do anything to Chloe, you won't get off lightly.
With that, Liam hung up. I immediately started preparing to go to my in-laws' house, waiting at the entrance for Liam to arrive. Anthony didn't do anything to harm me, looking uneasy instead. A few minutes later, my in-laws arrived, and I headed to their house with them. When Liam opened the front door, Anthony looked frightened in a way I had never seen before, clearly very afraid of Liam.
Anthony, you should spend tonight reflecting on your actions alone. Understand?
Dad, I'm sorry,
What are you saying? The person you should be apologizing to isn't me, it's Chloe. Just think about what you've done alone. Reflect on it. Got it?
Liam said this and led me outside. I had managed to change my clothes but didn't have the chance to shower. Liam wrapped a towel around my body and put me in the car. A few minutes later, when we arrived at my in-laws' house, Jody was waiting for me.
Chloe, are you okay?
I'm sorry. Jody gently embraced my shoulder and led me to the bathroom.
Take your time. There are clothes and towels here for you.
Thank you. The events had unfolded so suddenly that my mind was still trying to make sense of everything. After taking a bath, I changed into the clothes provided and headed to the living room.
Thank you for the bath.
Don't mention it. Liam was looking grim, and Jody appeared concerned as they sat on the sofa. I took a seat on the sofa as Jody urged me to. Chloe, can you tell us everything that's happened up to now? It wasn't the first time, was it?
Well,
please, Chloe. I didn't know where to start and kept silent. But my in-laws patiently waited for me to speak. A few minutes later, I began to recount everything that had happened since our marriage and why I hadn't consulted them earlier. They listened quietly until I finished speaking.
And so, it came to what happened earlier. Why didn't you tell us? I didn't want to worry you. I'm sorry. Well, I understand how you feel, Chloe, but don't let that guys like him get carried away like that.
I'm sorry. I was scolded, but I knew they were both worried about me. After a while, silence fell again. Both seemed to be pondering, and the atmosphere didn't invite interruption. After a few minutes of silence, Liam finally spoke slowly. "Do you still love Anthony?"
What?
"I mean, Anthony is likely to repeat the same behavior. Maybe it would be best to consider a divorce seriously." Jody nodded in agreement next to Liam. Divorce. I had never expected Anthony's parents to suggest divorcing him. Certainly, it might be easier to divorce. But, could this be an opportunity for him to change? The dilemma of still being in love made the situation even more difficult. However, they quietly waited for my decision. After a few minutes of thought, I made my choice. I'll get a divorce. I decided on divorce. There was a part of me that wanted to believe in Anthony, but after much thought, it was clear he had never listened to anything I said before. If I didn't divorce and went back, he would likely return to his terrible attitude towards me again. That's what I thought. My decision seemed to have relieved them both. After some discussion, we decided I should file for divorce as soon as the next day. This way, I could finally be free from Anthony. Even though I had hoped for Anthony's change of heart until the very end, part of me felt relieved once the divorce was decided. The next day, I went to the house with my in-laws, holding the divorce papers in hand. As soon as we rang the doorbell, we could hear footsteps inside, and Anthony came out. Chloe. And Dad and Mom. Seeing the faces of my in-laws, Anthony showed an obviously disappointed expression. It should have been clear that I wouldn't return alone so soon after what had happened. We entered and sat down on the sofa. My in-laws also sat down beside me. Anthony was still flustered and hadn't even apologized to me yet. Watching him, I said, "Anthony, I want a divorce." "What? Divorce?" "I've thought about it, and I no longer have the confidence to continue with you. If we start living together again, your attitude will just revert back, and over time, you'll forget about what happened this time and repeat the same behavior, won't you?" "That's not." "Can you say for sure that won't happen? Besides, you haven't properly apologized to me yet. It's clear you haven't reflected at all from your actions." "I'm sorry." Anthony quickly apologized after hearing my words, but it was too late. I had no intention of forgiving Anthony anymore. It's too late for everything. Just sign the divorce papers quickly. With my in-laws on my side, I could boldly express my thoughts to Anthony. Too late. "Anthony, what were you thinking last night? Not even apologizing to Chloe, and now you're surprised to be faced with a divorce. If you were aware of how terrible you've been, being divorced wouldn't come as a surprise. I did do terrible things, but I never thought it would lead to divorce." "Not expecting to be divorced? You really have a blissfully ignorant brain." Anthony shrank back at my words. All his bravado seemed to have been left somewhere far behind. In the end, Anthony reluctantly signed the divorce papers. Our relationship ended without a single sincere apology from him. By the way, as I was packing to leave the house, I asked something that had been on my mind. "Why did your attitude change all of a sudden after we got married? There was nothing like this when we were dating." Reluctantly, Anthony opened up. "I didn't want to be looked down upon. That's all." "Looked down upon? Did I ever act like that when we were dating?" "No, you didn't." "Keep your weird fantasies in check. It's really unbelievable." Okay. With that, I left the house with my in-laws, never to return again. I felt a bit sad to leave the house itself, to which I had grown attached. After filing the divorce papers, I stayed with my in-laws. Being a housewife without my own income, my in-laws told me I could live with them. Of course, I was nervous at first. But gradually, I got used to the atmosphere of my in-laws' house and could even enjoy doing handicrafts with Jody. During this time, Anthony tried to contact me, but Liam made it clear through my mobile phone.
We're cutting all ties with you.
And he never contacted me again. Anthony probably never imagined I would be living with his parents. Seeing that he tried to contact me even after the divorce, it was clear he still looked down on me. Divorcing such a man was the right decision. I can't thank my in-laws enough for encouraging the divorce. Now, a year after the divorce, I've started living on my own and working part-time, leading a fulfilling life. I felt it wasn't right to keep relying on my in-laws' house forever. Though I've moved out, I still keep in touch with my in-laws and continue to receive their support. They've treated me like their own family, even though we're not related by blood. My current goal is to repay my in-laws. What could I do to make them happy? Today, I continue to live with gratitude towards my in-laws.